Workshops. So we are five. Annette here from Italy. Not Sandra, Milan. Because Sandra should have been with us, but Milan is also working at the same office at STUBA in Slovakia, and Leah working with me at the French Ministry of Ecological Transition, and also we have Elisabeth Losos from Duke University. So for her, it's really early in the morning, so thank you, Elisabeth, to be with us. And myself, Yannick Autret, so you know me because I took the floor a bit earlier during this week. Shortly, today we have a short workshop of 1 hour, so we will be efficient and we will wake up everybody, so the nap will not be with us. We will have a first step with a global view on the research and valorisation and capacity training within the Bison project. What are we doing? What could look like also the Bison e-learning center? And what are the links that could be done with the Sustainable Infrastructure Partnership Community of Learners that is managed by also Elisabeth and with the help of Leah. Then after we will have a brainstorming session to share opinion on ideas. So please prepare your smartphone because you will have to use it. And then after we will have panel session with questions and answers. So Leah, floor is yours.
Hi everyone, so thank you for joining us both online and in person. So don't worry, I saw some surprise faces when we saw take out your smartphone, because you can also use your computer if you have one and you'd rather use it. So first of all, one QR code or internet link that you can use. So the idea of this survey is that you can ask all the questions that you have throughout the workshop, so that we don't lose too much time trying to answer everyone's questions throughout the workshop. And then at the end of the workshop, we will have a quick Q&A session where all the panelists try to answer your questions. So if you have an online, I will paste the link right after this. So now, Annette, you're going to introduce us to the work that Bison is doing to communicate its results and try to build capacity learning communities among infrastructure and biodiversity professionals.
Hi, hello to everybody, and welcome to the workshop. I hope I'm not going to destroy everything. Okay. Yes, so the task 2.4 of the Bison project is a task which is the exploitation of the results, which means that we somehow have to decide and plan what will be happening with the project outputs after the project, so that we don't want that when the project ends, everything is dying there, but all the results and all the deliverables and data and information and experience should somehow be exploited and further used. So this task is divided in two subtasks. One subtask is the development of an exploitation plan, which is what I told you, to decide how we will further exploit the results. And the other subtask, which is under the responsibility of the technical university, the Slovakian Technical University or something like this, is the capacity building, is to develop a capacity building platform. So the exploitation plan, as I told you, we want to make sure that the products and knowledge which we develop in the project are widely known to other stakeholders, to other users, both general public and stakeholders, in order to contribute to a theory of change, so to a change. And we will we already defining key outputs of the project, which we want to disseminate, and define the tools which we will use. The capacity building platform has the objective to provide data and knowledge to also other people. So not only the partners involved in the project, but also other key stakeholders and people, the authority, etc., in order to develop the capacities to implement all those best practices and knowledges and experiences that are available in order to reduce the impact of infrastructures on biodiversity. So what we have already done for the exploitation plan is we first started by doing an online questionnaire for our, let's say, partners, the work package and task leaders. And we first of all asked them which are the outputs of the project which we should disseminate. So, and here with outputs, we intend, as I said, not only the deliverables, but also data sets or information and expertise that we have developed. And we ask them also how they think we should, what stakeholders and target groups we should reach and how we should do that. We have drafted the first structure of this dissemination plan, which is now under discussion, under revision, etc. It will be ready by the end of the project, so hopefully a little bit earlier, so by late spring next year. For the development of the e-learning platform, the first step has been in the last meeting in Paris in June at the Bison General Assembly. We have made a workshop similar to now, in which we have split the participants into different types of professionals, so in NGOs, practitioners, public authorities, and researchers, and we have asked them who should be the target of the e-learning platform, and especially what should be in this e-learning platform. So what are the main roadblocks towards the use and implementation of the best practices that we have, and what should be provided in this e-learning platform. So just very briefly, I don't want to go much into detail. We have asked 3 questions at that workshop, which are, first of all, to highlight the uniqueness of the project. So what's the particularity of the project? What are the capacity gaps, as I said, which we should cover in the e-learning tool, and which are the target groups, and how we should convey the messages. So what was found, I pointed here out, of course we have a long list of results and of answers, but let's say the most striking or most also clustering the replies we had, that the fact that the project is mainstreaming biodiversity and infrastructures, so it's combining 2 sectors which usually don't really communicate too much. So it's bridging fields and brings together partners from these 2 sectors. And also with a huge amount of different types of organizations. So in the Bison project, there are NGOs, there are universities, there are ministries, there are infrastructure development agencies, etc. So it is very comprehensive to all transport infrastructures. In the capacity gaps, one of the most important things which was pointed out is that especially among stakeholders, there is somehow a lack of understanding of the value of biodiversity, also of the impact of the transportation, and there is a problem to see what is the value, also the economic value of the biodiversity. So, because everybody, people who are not linked to biodiversity sometimes they think maybe this is a topic which doesn't have an economic impact, whereas it has a very strong economic impact, but we have to convey this message. And of course, what was pointed out were that there are also, of course, problems of costs in implementing activities, because always the cheapest solutions are sought. And yes, and therefore, one of the important things which the project also should bring out is to somehow try to give a tool in order to quantify the biodiversity issue, so that in order as a tool for convincing decision makers that biodiversity is not just a game or something like this, but it has an economic value. Well, very basically, the key audience are, of course, all those basic decision makers like ministries, etc. Of course, engineering, landscape planning, enterprises, etc. But also media was pointed out because, of course, media, which we often don't think too much about, to involve, is, of course, influencing people a lot. We have to use simple and appealing platforms and simple and appealing images, using images, as was pointed out also this morning in the keynote speech, is that we should not use long texts and publications, but simple messages, drawings, schemes, etc. What was also pointed out is that it's important to create a community of practice, which means that we have to involve all different types, make sure that stakeholders which maybe have other interests feel part of one community. And this is something which is also the Bison project is already doing. And finally, that we should involve also global stakeholders like the World Bank, UNEP, etc. So I think from my point of view, yeah, for me, it's that's all. I think there is time for questions later, and I leave the word to Milan.
Thank you very much, Annette. My name is Milan. I'm here from the Slovak University of Technology in Bratislava. We are one of the Bison project partners. Originally, Maros or Sandra should be here, but they couldn't come because of work duties. So they are saying hi to all the project partners and also all the participants. And in the next few minutes, I would like to tell you a little bit about this e-learning tool, this platform. Overall structure or the scheme you can see in front of you. You can see the structure itself, which is right now on the left side of the screen. And on the right side, you can see the content. So basically, the idea is that this tool is a part of the dissemination strategy. And the idea is simply to share the knowledge, to increase the awareness about the topics that are being dealt with, not only within the Bison project, but also in the other similar projects of this thematic field. From the point of view of the structure, we are following this modular structure, which basically means that quite a few small thematic modules will be produced for different stakeholder groups. Regarding the structure, we will have 3 types of these modules. Number 1, or module A, will be common one, which will be same for all the teaching sets, which will be introductory to the topic about the project and so on. Then we will have several specific modules on various thematic areas, which will be basically the summaries of the contents of the Bison project. And then the third group of modules will be from the other similar projects. For instance, one of them is Connect Green, which is a follow-up of Save Green, which is right now also present here. And you can ask, why do we have so many modules? The basic idea is that we don't want to prepare one teaching set for everyone, but we want to make them targeted for different stakeholder groups. So right now we are thinking about at least 5 stakeholder groups. One of them are investors, then we have EU actors, national level actors, and so on. And basically for each of these target groups, specific combination of these modules will be selected and prepared. As I said, this online tool is part of the dissemination strategy. And here I would perhaps only underline that idea on one hand is to collect information from the outputs from the individual work packages, but on the other hand is to also put into one platform the knowledge from other projects, for instance, Connect Green, Save Green, and many other that have been implemented or are being implemented right now. And this is the final slide I have. So basically, this is a summary. From the content point of view, we'll be asking the work package leaders to send us information which they would like to see on the platform, so individual deliverables, outputs, and so on. And then also specific types of data and specific type of collected materials will be also inserted into these specific modules, which would be, as I said, basically put into one place, available for broader stakeholder group. And this is it from my side, and now I would like to hand in the word. Thank you.
Thank you, Milan. So like we said earlier, our next panelist is online. So it's Elizabeth Losos from Duke University in North Carolina in the United States. And she's working hand in hand in this project with the UNEP in the frame of the Sustainable Infrastructure Partnership. So Liz, if you are with us, it's your turn.
Thank you, Leah. I'm not sure why my video camera is not going on.
No, but we hear you well.
Okay, and it's going to be showing the slides anyway. Oops, I just lost the slides. That's all right, I don't need the slides. Let me just try one more with the video. Nope, not going on. So thank you all so much for having me. I am really sorry not to be there in person. I was especially sorry yesterday when you all went off on your field trips, not to be able to join you. What I want to talk about is the next stage. The eco tool that we just heard about, when it's completed, will be fantastic. Oh, now I'm on. Will be fantastic, but the next question is, once you develop these tools, how do you actually get the stakeholders to adopt them, to find out about them, to access them, and to use them? And that's really a huge question, and something that a group of us called SICOL, or the Sustainable Infrastructure Community of Learners, have been asking for several years. We've been thinking about this question of how do you get adoption of the growing tools, not just in transportation and biodiversity, but in a whole range of infrastructure-related topics, like, as you see, low carbon development, green-gray infrastructure, resilience and adaptation, green finance, and then across all of the different stakeholder groups that we've already heard about here, I list several: engineers, government agencies, architects, NGOs, academia, et cetera. So we really spent some time thinking about this, and a small group of us, organizations that you can see here, Duke University, UNEP, ITICOF, Conservation International, and ICSI, which is the International Coalition for Sustainable Infrastructure, identified a model that has been very successful in the public health sphere called Project ECHO. And this model, and so we teamed up with Project ECHO to try and find a effective but inexpensive and fast means of being able to convey this. And next slide. So the ECHO model, and it was originally designed thinking about how do you get specialized knowledge to healthcare practitioners like doctors or nurses who are in remote settings and don't necessarily have the training. How do you get it to them quickly and easily? And they developed a model which was virtual called the ECHO model, where you use case-based learning, where practitioners in the field would bring their cases and together join in these small virtual hubs where they would regularly meet for short periods of time, so low intensity but high frequency meetings where they would present their cases and discuss, share knowledge with each other, but also with specialists who would bring specialized knowledge and tools to the field and help build this capacity, amplify the information from sort of the core, the specialized knowledge, to a broader base. And this is the way of sharing best practices, and they continued to monitor outcomes to make sure they were effective. So we decided to try and apply this model to sustainable infrastructure. And the last year we had a pilot project where we ran a year-long series called Sustainable Infrastructure, putting theory principles into practice. And we had over 600 individuals participate. It was a monthly seminar, and it was based on UNEP's 10 good practice principles for sustainable infrastructure. And we thought it was highly successful. It really sort of began to develop this community of practice that brought together practitioners or stakeholders from different fields. You can see here engineers and architects were our biggest group, but we had lots of folks from government, from academia, from nonprofits, finance, would come together and share their information, hear from specialists, but also find out about cases. So our next step is to try and scale this model up. Can I go to the next slide? As looking back at this matrix you see here, what we're now hoping to do is build a network of small hubs focused on specific topics. For example, transportation biodiversity could be one or several hubs. There could be a hub in Africa and another hub in Asia and another hub, say, in Latin America, where they meet regularly, share their cases, but have input also from scientists, from other specialists who can bring the types of information that, say, the Bison Project is developing, or bring forward the modules that they are developing and bring them into this group that can share with each other their own cases. And so that's where we're going now. If anyone's interested, love to talk with you all further and also hear your thoughts, questions during the discussion session today in the workshop. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz, for waking up with the birds to join us today. And so, yeah, like Liz mentioned, if you are interested in like the next steps and maybe trying to help build this community of learners, you can drop your email in the Q&A, and I will just transfer them to Liz so that she contacts you for further action. So now is the more interactive part and the one where you give us your ideas, because we are hoping that we have a different audience today, a bit different from the one that we had at the Bison Assembly. And so we are still looking for your ideas and your examples of best practices in terms of capacity training, in infrastructure and biodiversity especially. So first of all, we are going to have a first part of a brainstorming for about 5 minutes. So the first question, so you can either scan the QR code here or use the link below. If you want to use one computer, for the people who are in person, if you want to use one computer to answer for a group of people and just chat between you can, because it's also the interest of being in person. The first question will quickly be just to kind of know where you're from, if you're more from the biodiversity or infrastructure field, and whether you're more on the research side of things or on the practitioner side of things. And then the second question will be regarding the initiatives that are taking place in your institutions. So whether this is your universities, your companies, are there any tools, any trainings for professionals? So it would be interesting in knowing this in order to kind of target the needs going on. And then in 5 minutes, I will come back to you for the 2 second questions of the brainstorm. Okay, so I guess we can start looking at the results. So this is just the professional affiliation. So on average, we have more experts from the environmental field, and it's quite balanced between operation and research. And then, so for the initiatives that you know of or that you would like to see, so some of you are mentioning university courses, but also good practices. So like we said, involving all key stakeholders, sustainable infrastructure, community of learners, was highlighted too. So here an example of a very specific website. So we'll have a look at all of this. Thank you very much, and we'll try to see also if we can send you the results by email or something via the IENI conference. And so now, if we can go back to the PowerPoint, please. Sorry. Thank you very much. So the second part of the brainstorming is more related to the barriers and gaps that you have experienced throughout different projects or interactions with other people. So yes, the QR code on the right or the link on the right of the slide. And the last question will be your ideas for the future. So you have approximately 10 minutes to answer this, and I've changed the setting that was bugged. So when you are done answering question 1, it will go directly to question 2 this time.
So there are 2 questions?
Yeah, there are 2 questions. Yeah. Okay, so it looks like there aren't a lot of answers coming in anymore, so I guess we can just go to the results. So in terms of needs that you have encountered throughout your projects, etc., we have political that is coming back, like political obstacles, lack of political will, access to the latest research easier, and not having to go through all the literature, etc. Yeah, timely access to latest research, short summaries. So it feels like these would be coming more from practitioners that are looking for faster solutions to their problems. Then for the obstacles, so for the communication, so what is actually interesting for us trying to build a community of people. So yeah, trying to connect with people, communicate with everyone, because the languages are not the same, the priorities are not the same, the stakes are not the same for everyone. So thank you everyone for your insight on this, and I guess now we can take your questions, especially from the audience in person if you have any, and also we'll keep an eye on the chat box for the people online if you want to ask your questions right now. And also Annette, Yannick, if you want to join me on stage to answer questions. I don't know.
This is a quiet workshop, but you're very producing. No questions? Maybe I have a question for one. Yes, you are working. Yeah. You are working in Australia on a website that is also trying to put partners together to share common language. What are the main challenges, and how did you design your initiatives, and what are also upcoming steps for you in upcoming time?
Thanks, Yannick. We started the website probably we began thinking about it about probably 4 or 5 years ago. It's called www.transportecology.info. There's some flyers down there at the front. So do grab one on your way out. Subscribe to the site as well. Basically, there's at the moment 3 parts to it, to the site. One is research summaries, one is case studies, and one is best practice. The research summaries are where we get the people who do the research to write a short summary in simple language with lots of pictures for lay people to understand, so non-experts, but it has to be peer reviewed. So we're not responsible for the credibility or the confidence in their work. Someone else has done that because they've published it in a peer reviewed journal. The case studies can be any aspect of a transport project that can be written up. So it might be how they chose where to put a crossing structure. It might be the conflict between the community and the transport agency and how that was resolved. It can be anything really. And then the best practice, we haven't worked on those yet. But basically it also came about because there's so much research, hundreds of papers a year, most of it's behind paywalls. It's also places, you know, the average person does not go looking on Google Scholar or some other library database, and they don't know how to search libraries. And so it's there. They're all available on the site. We send out an email once a month or once every couple of months with updates. Really simple, easy reads, and it's making that information accessible. We're also open to adding other aspects to the site. So we've talked about, you know, training. We've talked about other things. Can't think of at the moment.
Okay, thank you for this testimony. Any other feedbacks or experience that could be useful to be shared on what you are doing and how you are also disseminating knowledge? I know some of you, so I will ask a question if you are not answering now.
I'll just finish. I think there's also other places that are doing similar things. I think we have to be careful not to duplicate our effort. So IENI's doing some resource information sharing. There's a training course in Myanmar, etc. So I think it's important that we each have our different target audiences and different things that we're delivering, but let's not duplicate effort because it's a waste of our own time. It also diminishes where people can find the different bits of information. So I think collaboration, working together is the way to go.
Okay.
Just maybe don't leave the microphone too early, Rodney, because there's a question for you from Eric Guinard online, and he's saying, do you intend to accept abstract of studies which produce negative results from their initial hypothesis, not very easy to publish?
Yes, absolutely. So that was one of the things that we talked about this week, was for projects which don't, so I guess there's two parts to that. One is a project with a negative result that's a good project, and we're 100% certain it's a negative result. That's hard to publish. We can take those. But there's also projects, maybe it's an undergraduate student project, it's quite small, not enough to go in a journal, but provided it has the context, then that's stuff we can publish as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, Johan.
Yeah, so I will try to keep myself short. I think there are two really important aspects here. There's very much literature out there, grey literature, and even technical reports in many different languages. So it will be very challenging to find information. And next, you want to validate the information in some way. So that's the next step you have to consider, and what that takes in time and resources.
Thank you.
We have another question online, and I think this one is more Annette, maybe we could answer. What about producing instructional videos for the website or for e-learning? So I feel like, yeah, with Bison.
Yes, maybe it's more for for STUBA actually. For sure it would be a very good tool. It's a little bit a problem of resources because we don't, and STUBA doesn't have too much resources for that. So we are a bit dependent also on the task leaders and our partners, on the willingness to cooperate from our partners.
Yes, thank you. From our point of view, the thing is that to integrate it into the platform, this is fairly easy. So when the material is ready, whether it is in form of video or some PDF documents or most usual formats, this should not be a problem. But again, this is about the quality of the delivered materials, but also like we need to think of what would be the desired target group and how to make it interesting to them especially.
Yeah, when we had, because with Annette and Maros, etc., we had a thought about video material, and one of the things was the fact that it's very costly to make them available for all the audiences. So because when you're targeting children in primary school or in a high school, you will definitely not only the content will not be the same, but also the way that you are explaining it. So for children, you are going to look at cartoons, for example, whereas for researchers or practitioners, you're going to have way more precise and reliable scientific information. So that was one of the challenges that we saw with video material.
Other feedbacks? Maybe I have a question for you, Nicolas, because at the Office Foundation for Biodiversity in France, you have also several resource centers, and how are you producing or coordinating those elements? How can it be a link to what we are doing, as you are also Bison member, but it can be, we talk about avoiding redundancies and optimizing our strengths. Can you testimony a bit?
Yes, thank you, Yannick. Our resource centers are functioning with a scientific committee that is validating all the materials that are produced and disseminated. With the Bison results, we plan to translate the results into French, because our resource centers are dedicated to French people in the first place. And so that's how we plan to disseminate the Bison results. To cooperate with other states could also be a solution to optimize our strengths, and perhaps thanks to Bison we could also use studies from Sweden or from Australia and translate the results for the French community. It's not into action right now, but I think in the future we could do that.
Other feedbacks or reactions? Yeah, do you want to? Okay.
I think one important thing to keep in mind is that I personally have this tendency, and I think I'm seeing it a little bit here, is trying to do everything for everyone. So if you're talking about school children and secondary and practitioners and engineers and every language, and it's just, you get so diluted that you end up doing nothing well. So it's just a warning, I think, to try and think about where your maximum impact can be and target that.
Thank you.
Actually, Rodney, sorry, I think another question for you, which was from Elizabeth, actually. She was wondering, how do you attract practitioners for the site? So I feel like she was definitely referring to transport ecology, so that's why.
Yeah, okay. Well, I harass them. We invite them, and then the benefit for them, for some most researchers who, if I understand the question, how do we get people to write summaries? The hook for them is to get their work to a bigger audience. So there's a benefit for them. And then how do we get people to sign up and register? So practitioners, it's just word of mouth, it's sharing the information, and eventually it gets out there. Was that the question? Yeah.
The question was, how do you attract practitioners to the site? But I see that Elizabeth is opening her camera, so I think if we can switch to Elizabeth on the screen, it will be easier to leave her the floor.
Yeah. Thank you, Rodney. That is a terrific site. That is the question, not how do you get researchers to put their results up, but rather how do you get folks who could potentially use the site to do so, and how successful has that been? Do you have a wide range of practitioners, whether it's, you know, government officials or engineers, or who is coming to the site, and how do you bring in more? Yeah. How do you make it attractive for them to come in?
Mm. So we use social media quite well. So LinkedIn, and it's been running for probably just over 12 months. You know, there's 500 people who follow on LinkedIn. There's 1,000 or more who follow the site. Plus, there's those that just look at it from week to week. And it's a combination of just keep putting information out there. One thing we're pretty keen on was that the name of the site would be really simple and understandable. So transport and ecology, that's kind of self-explanatory. And it's just a gradual process of building the profile, making sure what we do is useful, and eventually people sign up. So everyone here, I'm hoping, has signed up or will. And just sharing that opportunity to your colleagues and so on.
That's great. I just want to reiterate 2 points that you made there. One is, I think the idea of the degree to which we can coordinate all of these efforts, so that I think one of the problems is when you are a practitioner who may be, you know, say you're an engineer and you kind of have heard about biodiversity, you're building something, you think it might be interesting, but you really don't have any deep knowledge. If there are 5 different sites out there, that's really hard for them. They'll never know which one to go to. They'll never have a sense of what, and it's not just being able to look at the research and being able to do some sort of assessment of the research, but it's the sites. It's the making sure that we're able to funnel people to just a few places rather than a very scattershot. And also, the other point you made that I just wanted to pick up on, and this is more of a response, and I'm also pitching this network of small hubs that I talked about in my presentation. I think one possible way of addressing the issue of having audiences with different needs, like secondary school versus a government official versus an enterprise. One of the ways to have smaller, more specific hubs that really do focus and integrate people with similar needs, but then a wider network that connects them, so that information can be the same group of specialists, researchers, others working can provide information to these different hubs at the level that they need. And that's sort of what we're thinking, so that you're not trying to do one thing for all audiences.
Yep. Great. I agree entirely.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for your comments and very interesting exchanges. And Rodney, your initiative is very interesting. Unfortunately, I think the hour that we were given is over. And so thank you everyone for your participation. So it was actually my first time doing something like this, so I hope you got something from it, and we definitely did, thanks to your share of experiences. So thank you very much, and thank you for all the discussions that we are able to have here in Cluj and with the people online. Thank you.
word before leaving, because Leah was also a trainee with me during 6 months, and during 6 months she was half with Elizabeth and half with me to work on both. And I think it's also a challenge because she was with on 1 foot on each part of the Atlantic Ocean, and she also tried to create bridges for knowledge. And thank you, Leah, for everything, because you did a great job, and I think you helped us so much to go a step forward and to help us to do such a workshop and to deepen our action and to accelerate. So I would like really to thank you for all your investment during all those 6 months, and I wish you the best for the future. Thank you.